Good evening. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to all of you, and thank you for attending Fairfield Prep's Seed Diversity Dinner. My name is Nina April, and I am the mother of Sebastian Gonzalez-April, class of 2022. When Reuben Goodwin asked me to speak this evening about my family's experience here at Prep, I said yes without hesitation, as it has been quite the journey. My family is an eclectic melting pot of American Indian, Mexican, Eastern European Jewish, Finnish, and Irish. My father was fortunate enough to be a first-generation college graduate, while my mother was an immigrant for whom English was a third language. I vividly remember my mother studying for her citizenship test, trying to memorize a list of the United States presidents in sequential order at our kitchen table. Since I am a single head of household, raising my son has not been an easy task. I wanted more for my son than what our local Waterbury School District had to offer. I sought not only strong academics, sports, and extracurricular activities, but a nurturing environment where my son could develop into a solid young man. We toured several private high schools, which all seemed okay, but not quite the fit I was looking for. I had heard about Fairfield Prep and knew the value of a Jesuit education. I scheduled a visit, and at the end of the day, when I picked Sebi up, he said, "This is it, I want to go to Prep." While he took the entrance exam, I listened to the venerable Dr. Robert Parada talk about being men for others. This holistic approach, including cura personalis, or care of the whole person, was exactly what I was looking for. We held our breaths for 4 months and then celebrated Sebi's acceptance, attended our home meeting, and attended our first Seed Diversity Dinner. I opted to send Sebi to the summer program before his freshman year to help with the transition to high school and knock out a requisite computer science credit. He made friends and did fairly well. Sebi has remained friends with many of the boys he met during the summer program, and I highly, highly recommend this program to all incoming families of freshmen. Sebi started his freshman year commuting by train from Waterbury to Fairfield. Sadly for us, the train left at 6:30 a.m. We persevered through the early mornings, lots of homework, and Sebi's overall adjustment to high school. He eked through his freshman year and attended summer school for biology and math, as his grades were lackluster in those subjects. He started his sophomore year, and this was the first year that sophomores were required to take physics. My son, who had barely gotten through algebra, now had to do physics, and I was no help with that. After struggling through the first semester and eventually skipping several days of physics class, he ended up with a couple of jugs and in Dean Davis's office. He expressed how difficult prep had become for him. The train had lost its novelty, he was flunking physics, and I was coming down hard on him. All of his teachers, his guidance counselor, Mr. Goodwin, and I rallied around him to figure out how to support him. At that point in time, I was scared, overwhelmed, and not really quite sure if he was going to make it at Prep. Sometimes I even questioned whether I had made the right decision in sending him to Fairfield Prep. I had to do something, so I made the decision to relocate to Bridgeport so that the commute would be less daunting for him and for me, and he could focus more on his studies. I signed a lease, and we moved to an apartment in Bridgeport at the beginning of January 2020. This seemed like the ultimate solution to our problems at the time, until 2 months later, when the country shut down due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The world was in turmoil, and all of my efforts seemed for naught, as prep had gone virtual. Sebi made it through his sophomore year and somehow managed to pass physics. I kept telling him, D is for diploma. While the COVID-19 pandemic raged throughout the world, my son developed a love of science through Mr. Dotolo's chemistry class. He began researching horticulture and started planting various seeds. His community hours were spent working at a camp for special needs children in the foster care system and tending to a family friend who had recently experienced a stroke. His junior year was almost entirely online and was his strongest year academically. At the start of his senior year, Sebi and I talked about colleges, and I still was not confident that my son was focused and mature enough to leave the nest and go to college far away from home. Perhaps free community college might be a better option. Of course, Sebi wanted to go as far away as possible and applied to colleges as far away as Colorado. During this time, I made many phone calls to guidance regarding college options. Over the pandemic, my son had homed in on agricultural science, particularly plant science. He applied to both agricultural science and liberal arts programs. He received some acceptances and some rejections from the colleges he applied to. The process helped him realize exactly what he wanted, what he was willing to do, and what he was not willing to do. When Sebastian's acceptance letter from the University of Connecticut came, which was a complete surprise, I realized what a viable option this was. Sebi ran it past Mr. Goodwin, guidance, and favored teachers. They encouraged him to move forward with UConn. The next step was figuring out how I was going to pay for UConn. Several weeks after receiving his acceptance letter from UConn, Sebi received an email from UConn's agricultural science program inviting him to interview for a grant award for full tuition, room and board, and expenses at UConn. He used the interview skills he learned at prep in his business class and was fortunate enough to be awarded the opportunity. I stand here before all of you this evening, and I cannot pretend to have all the answers. And sometimes life just gets really, really hard. All I know is that prep has formed the young man, a man of faith, a man for others, that my son is today. I can assure you that the end product is much different than what you start out with. I encourage all of you to take advantage of the prep community while your sons attend. I have enjoyed seed meetings and Ignatian spirituality lectures, sat on focus groups, and joined the Bellarmine Guild. I encourage you to communicate with Mr. Goodwin, guidance, and teachers. We have all made sacrifices for our sons to attend prep, and Fairfield Prep has been so generous to us. I am forever indebted and hope to remain involved in some capacity. The expression, to whom much is given, much is expected, rings true, and I am expecting Sebi to give back through community service and make his first donation to the prep fund before heading to UConn. With gratitude, I remain Nina April, Sebi's mother, AMDG.